Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Humza Yousaf has been making great political capital out of the fact that the NHS hasn't gone on strike in Scotland. Well, up until now, of course. He's been told in no uncertain terms that they are about to strike because the SNP are so dire. Yousaf, of course, was the Health Secretary and generally regarded as a pretty poor one at that. And now, as First Minister, he is effectively still in charge of Health of Scotland. He's just one step up the ladder. Why is the NHS in Scotland falling apart? Why are the junior doctors about to go on strike? And why is everything just a little bit worse under the SNP? We're going to take a look at this article because the junior doctors are about to go on strike because they're going to reject the pay offer that Humza Yousaf has offered them. And we're going to see what they think about the man himself. And it isn't flattering. Here goes. So, Humza Yousaf told that junior doctors are suffering from dire SNP as he makes a last-minute offer to avert a strike. It's not just the junior doctors that are suffering under the dire SNP, of course. Everyone is suffering under the dire SNP. Let's be quite clear. Let's spread the misery here. Everyone is. The nationalist First Minister, widely regarded as the worst health secretary since devolution, has been told any new offer must also address conditions as well as pay. Because they're basically just letting the NHS in Scotland run to rack and ruin. They're not making investment. They're not doing anything with it because they are quite incapable of making the correct decisions. It's very important, of course, that they produce all this information about independence, but on no account must they use the money that they spend on that for things like the NHS, because priorities, isn't it? Anyway, Humza Yousaf has been told junior doctors in Scotland are paying the price for the dire rule of the SNP. The First Minister will hold talks today in a desperate bid to avert a damaging strike later this month. And of course, he's been harping on about, oh, look how much better we are in Scotland. We haven't had the junior doctor strikes that you have had in England because we're so much better. Well, that's about to change, isn't it, Humza? Eh? Because you've made them an offer and they've said no. Junior doctors are set to walk out between the 12th and the 15th of July in a dispute over pay. The British Medical Association announced they had rejected a 14.5% increase over 2 years. Now, okay, that looks a lot, but if you think it's 7% a year effectively, and inflation is like 10%. So by not giving an inflation matching pay rise, it's effectively a pay cut. And nobody wants a pay cut, effectively, So this is what they're arguing against, and you can see what their point of contention is. They don't want to be pay cut. It's hard enough as a junior doctor where you're doing like 60 hours a week or whatever, 70 hours a week that they often end up doing. And I don't have an objection to paying doctors, more money. That's when you need a doctor, you don't care how much you're paying that man. Anyway, they deserve more than politicians, and politicians, you can guarantee your politicians are earning a lot more than the junior doctors. Let's put it that way. And when have you ever gone, oh my God, I need to go and see a politician? It's never happened. Anyway. Despite describing that as the final deal, which it won't be, so he's lying straight away. You never ever go into a negotiation saying that's your final deal, because that'll be the last words of the subject and a strike will ensue. The man cannot negotiate. Anyway, despite describing the deal as the final deal, the SNP leader, widely regarded as the worst health secretary since devolution, worst transport secretary, worst justice secretary, worst first minister, the list goes on. Whatever he does next, he'll be the worst at it. Anyway, he will try and persuade doctors to call off the action during talks on Tuesday with a new offer. I thought that was the final deal before, Humza. You can't have that being the final deal. Now you're making a new offer. Scottish Conservatives health spokesman Dr Sandesh Gillane warned Mr Yousaf he must make a breakthrough in the talks. He said Scotland's health service already at breaking point due to years of SNP mismanagement. So patients will be alarmed at the thought of these damaging strikes going ahead. The SNP has overseen the worst performance of any sort of part of the NHS. Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, they're all devolved. The NHS in all those places are devolved. And Scotland has overseen the worst collapse and the longest growth of waiting lists, because everything the SNP does has to be seen through the veil of independence, and they cannot focus on actually doing the job. And that is why people are suffering. 4 years, people are waiting. They hold the record. Scotland holds the record for the most number of people for waiting for 4 years for treatment. That's down to their obsession with independence, because they keep putting millions into this, fight this court case, push that there, rather than, look, we've got £1 million, let's go into a hospital and say, look, here's £1 million, let's get 7, 8, 10, whatever it is, people off a waiting list. No, that's far too easy. Anyway, he said Scotland's health service is already at breaking point due to years of SNP mismanagement, so patients will be alarmed at the thought of these damaging strikes going ahead. Humza Yousaf must do everything in his power to halt them by reaching a deal with the shattered junior doctors, who are paying for the SNP's dire workforce. It must address not just pay, but the poor working conditions junior doctors face every day. There should be a law in that a junior doctor can't work more than so many hours. I think there is, but I think it's something silly like 70 hours a week, which is way too much. I don't want someone making life and death decisions when they're absolutely exhausted. It's that sort of thing that causes errors. My mother was a nurse for, seems like 100 years. And she said frequently doctors who had been awake for like 36 hours straight were issuing medical chits, prescriptions. And she's looked at them and went, "Are you sure about that, doctor? That seems awful high." And they went, "Oh no, I meant that. I meant 10 rather than 100 and things like that." So it's nurses, it's experienced nurses catching things up because the doctors are so tired. They're not bad doctors, they're tired doctors. And tired doctors make mistakes. So it's all part and parcel of the same thing. And nobody addresses that. That really does need addressing. But that's just a separate view. Anyway, it comes as the Scottish Government confirmed senior NHS staff will be given a 6% pay increase following negotiations with the Doctors and Dentists Pay Review body. Mr Yousaf chaired a resilience meeting with senior ministers and health bosses to plan contingencies in the event of the expected strikes next Monday. Well, what are the contingencies? You've got the junior doctors go. You can't just draft in, people off the street, go down the Dole office and say, "Can you send me 10 doctors?" That's not how it works. So there is no real contingency plan. The doctors go on strike and Humza Yousaf is screwed. Unfortunately, so are the patients, So you have sympathy with the doctors, but then you really do have to have sympathy with the patients. But ultimately, this is down to Humza Yousaf. Pushing this through now. Following the meeting, Dr. Chris Smith, chair of the BMA Scottish Junior Doctors Committee, said junior doctors in Scotland have consistently and strongly made clear that the pay offers made so far by the Scottish Government are not yet sufficient to demonstrate a commitment to reverse the years of pay erosion we have suffered, which has seen pay reduced by 28.5% in real terms since 2008. No one can seriously argue a junior doctor today is worth that much less than a counterpart 15 years ago. Indeed, our members rejected the Scottish Government's latest offer decisively, and unless we act now and invest in the future of the workforce, we will go on losing doctors to places they are valued properly, compromising the care we can provide to the people of Scotland now and in the future. This is the thing, if you don't pay people enough, they will up sticks, especially when they've got the high skills like a doctor. They will up sticks and go somewhere else where they are paid more, where they are valued. And this is why so many NHS workers are getting up and going to Australia. Because they just are given more money and better conditions and a shorter working week, Speaking during a visit to the Forth Valley Hospital in Larbert near Falkirk, to mark the 75th anniversary of the NHS, Mr. Yousaf said it was 50-50 on whether the new offer would be accepted. It's probably not going to be accepted, is it? So it isn't going to be 50-50 at all, and you know it. He said, I'm prepared to offer junior doctors the biggest ever uplift seen in the history of devolution, and if accepted, it would put thousands of pounds into the pockets of our junior doctors, and they will be worth every single penny. Well, if you claim there that you think they're worth everything that they get, and they are valuable, pay them. Pay them and shorten their working week, for heaven's sake. Mr. Yousaf added, I don't think it's a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's going to be challenging, but given where we know the BMA are and what we're able to afford, but I do believe the BMA absolutely, when they say they want to do everything they can to avoid industrial action. Doctors don't go out and strike, on a whim. They don't want to do it. They know and they understand. They understand the absolute trauma sometimes this can cause patients. Striking for the NHS in any form, nurses, doctors, consultants, is absolutely a last resort. But when you've got a man who is so incapable of doing his job, and it doesn't matter what his job is, that man there, Humza Yousaf, it's no wonder they're going to go out on strike. He could offer them a lot more money, but unfortunately he spent it on pushing the independence cause. Whose fault's that? It's not the fault of the doctors. And I am coming up. So, of course, we've been saying that Humza Yousaf was a terrible health minister and a terrible first minister, and it seems that everyone in the health service agrees. So it's we've got to accept, doctor's orders. It really is doctor's orders. Humza Yousaf officially is the worst health secretary and the worst first minister. And he does need to do something about it. People, especially, like I say, in the NHS, they don't go on strike for nothing. He's got to make an offer. And I think we all agree that doctors and nurses deserve far more money than the likes of Humza Yousaf and his team of illiterate, innumerate, backward, obsessed morons that are destroying everything they touch. Perhaps if we abolished the Scottish Parliament, that would free up a lot more money for the NHS. Who knows? Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button and ring that bell and leave a like and leave a comment and share the video. But definitely actually do hit the subscribe button. I'm looking there. It's actually, we're doing well now. It's only 70% of you who regularly watch. Just the regular viewers aren't subscribed. So if you're a regular viewer, hit the button. And come on board, and so keep up, and we can keep the truth going out there. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and let's hope that the doctor strike does not go ahead, because the waiting lists are long enough now. It's up to Humza Yousaf, isn't it? Bye bye.